Hello YouTube, it's Lalo with Game Nerd Country, and today we're going to do another deck tech. I didn't actually build this deck, but it's very special to me because my daughter, Awsomseasalt, bought this deck for me for Father's Day. I haven't got to play with it yet because I was waiting to get some sleeves for the cards. I don't like to play without sleeves. I just got some on there, and hopefully I'll find someone to play against me sometime soon. But anyways, on to the video. Alright, and the first card we're going to be looking at is Liliana Wielder for 5 and 2 black. She comes in with 5 loyalty counters. If you add 2 loyalty counters, you put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. If you take away 3 loyalty counters, you destroy target creature with a -1/-1 counter on it. Or if you take away 10 loyalty counters, you return all creatures' cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is pretty awesome. And there is 1 of her in that deck. Then the next one we're going to be looking at is Festering Mummy. We have 1 of those. It's a 1/1 for 1 black. And when it dies, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Then we have 2 Dune Beetles. It's a 1/4 creature for 1 and a black. Doesn't have any other abilities, but it's a great blocker. It's got the 4 toughness on it. And then we have 4, a whole playset of Tattered Mummy. It's a 1/2 for 1 and a black. When it dies, each opponent loses 2 life. So this is one of those cards that definitely wants to die, and you can do that with Liliana's abilities. There are other ways that you can get rid of this creature. Of course, you can block with it or attack, and it can get killed. But there are ways that you can do that with your deck. Anyways. And then we have 1 of the Channeler Initiate. It's a 3/4 for 1 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, you put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. So that's another way to get rid of that Tattered Mummy. Then if you tap it, you can remove a -1/-1 counter from Channeler Initiate and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So you can also add the 3 -1/-1s to her and do it that way. And this card I used in League, and I really liked it. It's really helpful with the mana fixing. After that, we have 2 Baleful Amat. It's a 4/3 for 2 and a black. It has lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. And we also have 3 of Desiccated Naga, and this is one of those cards that you just get in this Planeswalker deck. It's a 3/2 for 2 and a black, and if you pay 3 and a black, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2. You can only activate this ability if you have a Liliana Planeswalker, and there are ways to look for her in your deck if you don't have one in your hand. So, moving on, we have 2 Gravedigger. It's a 2/2 for 3 and a black, and when it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of them that want to die, and then when they do die, you get special effects. You can bring them back and do it all over again, which is pretty sweet. Then we have 1 Crocodile of the Crossing. It's a 5/4 for 3 and a green. It has haste, and when it enters the battlefield, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. Next one, we have 2 Giant Spiders. That's a 2/4 for 3 and a green, and it has reach, so it can block creatures with flying. And then finally, for creatures, we have 2 Decimator Beetles. It's a 4/5 for 3, a black and a green. When it enters the battlefield, you can put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control. And whenever Decimator Beetle attacks, you can remove a -1/-1 counter from target creature you control and put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature defending player control. Sorry, that was a lot to read. And then for other spells, we have Trial of Ambition. We have 2 of those. It's a 1 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent sacrifices a creature. When a cartouche enters the battlefield under your control, return Trial of Ambition to its owner's hand. Then you can cast it and do it all over again, of course. Then we have 1 Edifice of Authority. It's an artifact for 3. If you pay 1 and tap it, target creature can't attack this turn. You put a brick counter on it, on the Edifice of Authority. Then if you pay 1 and tap it, until your next turn, target creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. But you can do that only if there are 3 or more brick counters on Edifice of Authority. The next one, we have 1 of the Luxor River Shrine. It's worth 3. If you pay 1 and tap it, you gain a life, and you put a brick counter on it. And then its second ability is if you tap it, you gain 2 life, but you can only activate it if there are 3 or more brick counters on Luxor River Shrine. I got to use this one in the pre-release, and it was pretty cool. The next one we're looking at is Cartouche of Ambition. It is 2 and a black. Enchant creature you control. When the Cartouche of Ambition enters the battlefield, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. And the enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. So that's kind of cool. We also have 2 of Splendid Agony, which is also one of those that you can only get through this Planeswalker deck. It's a 2 and a black. You distribute 2 -1/-1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. So that one kind of helps out with your Liliana ability too, if you need to destroy something with a -1/-1 counter on it. It also helps your creatures die if you need them to. The next one is a Cartouche of Strength, and we have, I lost it, 2 of those. For 2 and a green, you enchant creature you control. When Cartouche of Strength enters the battlefield, you can have the enchanted creature fight target creature an opponent controls. The enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and it has trample, so it gives your creature an advantage and you can hopefully get rid of one your opponent controls. The next one, we have 1 Gift of Paradise for 2 and a green. You can enchant a land. When Gift of Paradise enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life, and the Enchanted Land has tap, and add 2 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. I like this card a lot as well. Going on, we have 1 Oracle's Vault, and it's an artifact for 4. You pay 2 and tap it, you exile the top card of your library, and until end of turn, you may play the card. And you put a break counter on the Oracle's Vault. The second ability, you just tap it, exile the top card of your library, and until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost, but you can only do that if you have 3 or more break counters on Oracle's Vault. I tried using that one in the pre-release and it didn't really work out for me, but who knows? Maybe it'll end up working on this one. And then finally, we have 2 of Liliana's Influence. This is another card that you can only get through the Planeswalker deck. It's 4 and 2 black. You put a 1/1 counter on each creature you don't control. You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Liliana Death Wielder. Reveal it, put it into your hand. And if you search your library this way, shuffle it. So that's another way here you can try to find Liliana if you don't already have one in your hand. For lands, we have 4 Foul Orchards. They enter tapped, and if you tap it, you get either a black or a green. And then we have 1 Grasping Dunes. It's a desert. If you tap it, you get a colorless in your mana pool. Or if you pay 1 and tap it and sacrifice it, you put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. You could do that only any time you could cast a sorcery. So another way to add more -1/-1 counters. And then we have 11 Swamp and 9 Forest. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed deck tech, and hopefully here soon I'll have a gameplay video starring this deck and also the last deck tech that I did called There Be Dragons. And if you haven't seen it, click on this link up here if you're using a mobile device, And I will catch you guys later. Be sure to subscribe, by the way, and check out some of my other videos as well. Anyways, catch you guys next time.